Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Surviving Mold podcast, where illness is defeated and lives are restored. Today I have the pleasure of having Mr. Larry Schwartz back on the show. Larry, you're becoming a regular.
Thank you. Thank you.
We're happy to have you.
Enjoy being here.
Awesome. Good. If you didn't hear Larry's last episode discussing the proper ways to test your home for remediation, you've got to check it out. But today we're here to talk about how do you know the home that you're about to buy is actually safe to live in? Should you be testing it? What types of new construction or types of construction are really the best to buy if you suffer from symptoms of SEERS or another biotoxin-related illness? So Larry, thank you again. Where do we get started? All right, how do we know if I'm going to go out and buy a house, which I do want to go out and buy a house, and I want to live by the beach. I want a nice place.
Sure.
How do I know if it's a safe home to live in?
Well, there are things you can do to minimize that risk. I can't tell you for sure that you can guarantee 100% it's going to be perfect, but you can make it the best it can be environmentally. And you have to understand from the beginning that patients with this type of illness, there are different triggers that can set them off. Water damage is the big thing. Possible electromagnetic fields, volatile organic compounds, a lot about the surrounding environment. So the things I recommend is this, and a lot of questions I get from clients are, is new construction better? Is an older home better? Or how old should the home be? So if you're searching to make a move, I would recommend, if it's a brand new home, the best deal is where you have it built by a builder who will follow guidelines that somebody like myself can offer as to materials and methods of construction to minimize problems. Otherwise, you run a risk. There are a lot of methods and things that go on in the construction that are not good at all for the patients. I can touch base quickly on a few of those. For example, today in a lot of parts of the country, the heating ventilation people like to use what we call flexible ductwork, which is like a big slinky with insulation wrap around it. It moves around. It's less expensive labor-wise to install. And it's very hard in the future to clean. And very often when they put up the drywall and the mudding and they sand the junctions at that point in the home, particles get trapped in the pieces in the ductwork between the wrap coils. And to do proper duct cleaning in the future destroys a lot of the material. It's very hard to clean if at all possible. And the problem is the paper on drywall, which is on the surface, a lot of it comes from tree bark that actually has mold and some stachybotrys in it. Where I've taken samples of dust in flexible ductwork in new homes and had it tested, I found stachybotrys, I found heavy metals. And so what I do when I have a client building a home and I work with their builder or contractor, giving them some ideas how to make the home more safe, when they do that portion of construction, I have them cover all the vent registers and seal and tape them and have the fan off when they're doing the sanding and drywall work, because I don't want any of that in the ductwork. If I can get them to put in what we call rigid ductwork instead of flex, I like that. In the paint near the end, you want no volatile organic compound type of paint. And there's a myriad of things you can do in new construction to make it a safer house environmentally. So if you like newer homes, I'd say get a home that's like 1 to 2 years old, where outgassing has taken place, the home is settled. And the kind of things I recommend to test to know that your risk is minimal in any home, whether it's newer or older. And newer and older homes have different environmental challenges. For example, older homes don't have designed drainage systems around the foundation. Newer homes do. Older homes dry out faster than newer homes. Newer homes are tighter, buildup of moisture in the air, more risk of condensation.
And newer homes?
Yeah, newer homes.
So it almost sounds like you're making the argument to not buy a new home.
Well, you just have to be careful. You have to be knowledgeable, and you can do it right. And the whole green movement, the green is basically designed for energy saving, and not all of those methods are compatible or go in the same direction is environmentally good in the home.
Well, let me stop you there, because there are two questions that come to mind, and one of them is, where do I find if my contractor has this information to make the home as proper as they can? Is there somewhere on your website that you have like a contractors list, or?
No, because there's so many contractors in different areas, and I do find there are some contractors that like to specialize in healthy homes.
Mm-hmm.
And depending where you are, you might try kind of Google under that topic and see what comes up. And I would be happy to even talk to and vet out some of these contractors for you on a consulting basis. But for many clients, I've actually, have communication with and talk to the contractors and the builders and give them protocols to use and answer their questions. If you're doing new construction, I want you to have a positive air pressure system in the home, for example. That's the best time to do it.
Gotcha.
But if you're going to buy a home of any age, here's what you need to do to check it out. Okay, you may want to do the dust collection sample in the home, like for a Hertzmeet test, which is a little less expensive than the ERMI.
Mm-hmm.
It'll give us good info, and I can help you decide, where in the home to do it. You can get a rush for a fast response from the lab. And I have a product on the Shoemaker website store called MPI,
mm-hmm.
Mold Propensity Index. And it's a set of questions, mostly multiple choice, some true and false, of 8 different functional areas of the home, along with a photo guide that anybody could follow and answer the questions, or if you're not sure, you could have your home inspector fill it out. And it comes back to us, and I create a risk assessment of what is the risk of this home to become water damaged and moldy. And it's based on these observations in these functional areas of the home. And it also highlights areas that need improvement and what should be improved to reduce that risk.
Wow.
So between the MPI and the Hertzmeet test or ERMI test will help reduce your risk of a safe home dramatically.
So do you think that whether someone's buying a new home or an old home, that their inspector should fill out this form, or that they should fill out this form? And are there inspectors that are specifically trained in mold detection?
No, however, licensed inspectors generally do know and have some equipment, not necessarily all, to look for current or past water damage. And if I were involved, I would want to chat with them and make sure that they follow some protocols to check all these things out appropriately.
Wow. Now, are there certain types of new construction that are, say, better than others? And I want to get really specific here. Like, for example, one of the new trends in environmental construction is what's called ICF home, insulated concrete form, essentially where they, they pour the pad, and then they have the beginning of the foundation, and they put up styrofoam and then pour the whole house walls. Every single wall is poured right there, and it's just a concrete house with a steel roof. And the reason they do that, and actually if you check out or Google Hurricane Harvey ICF home, you'll see neighborhoods that were just completely leveled, and the only homes left were these ICF homes because they're hurricane proof, they're quote-unquote storm-proof, they're earthquake-proof. They have an R value of over 200, so instead of R15, the normal insulation in your house, R200. So people are saying, wow, I can actually save so much money in utilities over the life of my mortgage that I'm saving the interest plus more on the mortgage itself. If I look at purchasing or building an ICF home, am I better off than a traditionally, I call it the stick home, here we are with the 3 little pigs. You can't blow my house down.
Good analogy. There are a lot of benefits to what you say, and I would say what I think of as potential pitfalls or things that are negatives about it are that, well, some of the good things are concrete is not a food source for microbial growth. Microbial growth needs a food source. There's
but drywall is because
drywall
it's
is, wood is.
Wow.
But here's the thing. Concrete takes a lot of time to cure, and as it cures, it gives off a lot of moisture that was in the original mixture.
Mm-hmm.
So for the first year or two, you're going to have very high moisture levels in that home from the curing concrete. So you do not want to add a humidifier. you want to run a whole house dehumidifier for at least a year or two
Oh, wow.
to keep your moisture levels down. And then when you build the interior from the concrete wall, you're going to have some materials. You may not have the insulation because it's such a great insulated wall, but you don't want to put, for example, drywall right against the concrete because moisture wicks through concrete. If you have wind-driven rain outside, it can, and you have negative pressure in the house, you're going to suck moisture through the concrete into the drywall surface against it.
Wow.
So you have to be careful in the construction how you offset your interior from the concrete. It gets technical.
It really does. Well, I'm sitting here and I'm just like, man, there are layers of complexity here because you talk about negative pressure. So I'm thinking like central heating and central cooling. But in like the desert Southwest, we have swamp coolers, which would be positive pressure because it's always, forcing air through the home to create humidity. So I'm sitting here thinking like, wow, maybe it's a good idea to have a swamp cooler. And then I'm thinking, no, it's not. There's a puddle of water that literally the pump takes from this puddle of water and sucks it into the filters that then the air is sucked through the filters.
Here's the downside of positive pressure. If you have positive pressure running in your home and you have high moisture levels in your home, then you're pushing moisture into your building envelope where it may reach a dew point and create moisture in the building envelope.
Wow.
So you have to make sure your moisture level's right.
Wow. Wow. Well, Larry, I'm fear of my life. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. My pleasure.
All right, I'm going to be hiring you, I think, like a lot of other people. So where do we go to give you a ring and say, I need to get a new home and not screw this up?
Easiest way is to go to my website. But even if you enter question or you want info, you enter on that site. Be patient. It may take a few days or up to a week for me to get a reply. I'm out in the field a lot.
Gotcha.
And a lot of catch-up. But I get back to everybody in reasonable time. The website is, the www.safestartiaq. S as in Sam, AFESTARTIAQ, one word. IAQ stands for Indoor Air Quality. SafeStartIAQ.com.
Awesome, Larry. Well, thank you very much for
You're
being on the
welcome.
show.
My
Really
pleasure.
appreciate it. You're a blast to have on. Guys, you need to go to his site. You need to get your home tested, and you need to make sure that wherever you move to is going to be a safe environment for your family. On that bombshell, that's going to do it for us today on the Surviving Mold podcast. Thanks again for watching.